Hello, this is the Tropic Feminist Gamers podcast, episode 16, Netwalking, a different way to network. Today I'm greeted by guest Lauren Malone. So, hi Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, my name's Lauren Malone, and my main job is as a mindset coach, but I'm also the founder of Netwalking UK, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Cool. So, let me know a little bit about your background story and what got you in there in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been running my business as a coach for over 4 years now, and I've had two babies in that time. And of course, we've had COVID in that time. And that completely transformed how I networked with other business owners. I live in quite a rural place. So I actually live in the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire. So it's quite rural, but just like a lot of rural places, I know where you are as well, Jen, you get a lot, there's a huge small business community. So before COVID and when I was pregnant with when I first started my business, I was doing lots of face-to-face networking, networking lunches, networking mornings, all of these kind of things. And it was great. And I absolutely loved it. Then of course, COVID happened and we all moved online. Again, great, really grateful to Zoom, because what would we have done without that? And I really enjoyed it. My business went online as well. So it was really beneficial to be able to connect with people all over the country, and network with loads of different businesses, loads of different people all over. So that was really fabulous. I then had my second baby in sort of April, so early-ish last year, so 22. And we were coming out of lockdowns, and we were coming out of all the COVID situation then, and we were starting to think about doing things face to face again. And I started to see that networking events were happening more, and I was like, oh, I want to go to some things. But with a new baby, it's really challenging. And I just found that being out of the house for a long time, I was breastfeeding. So being out for a long time without the baby wasn't really practical. Taking the baby with me, while most networking events are really flexible and really welcoming to mums in business, because we understand that there's plenty of mums doing the small business thing. So there was lots of flexibility, but it wasn't really practical for me and my situation. And when my daughter Hero, when she was about 6 months, so this was October last year, I was like, I really want to get out networking more, but I really want something short and snappy and local. And this wasn't really about growing my business locally, because like I said, my business is online. It was just about connecting with that community and having that connection with other people who find it hard sometimes, because it is hard sometimes and it is lonely sometimes. And it was actually through chatting with somebody who I'd met through online networking that they mentioned just in passing that they'd been on a netwalk. And I was like, that is the best idea ever. Right, where's my local netwalk? So got on Google, tried to find one. There was nothing that I could find near me. Found that there were some in different parts of the country. And I know you work for another networking group that does netwalks and stuff. So I was like, why isn't it here in the forest? Oh my goodness. So I was like, right, I'm just going to set it up. I'm just going to set up one here, set up events, see how it takes off. And I actually looked at the domain names. This was on the Monday, right? And then on the Monday evening, I was getting real excited, and I was looking at domain names on like GoDaddy or whatever, the websites you buy domain names are. And netwalking.uk was available at like 30p or something. And I was like, I'll invest that. I'm a risk taker. I'll invest 30p in this. And I enjoy building websites and stuff. It's not what I do, but it's just something I enjoy doing. And so I started to build this website and the events, and I just really enjoyed that process. It really motivated me to make networking a thing. So it gave me this little like buzz, set up my first event, and the feedback locally was fantastic. And I set up a Facebook group to go along with it. And that's when I started to meet people like yourself and other people in different parts of the country who either loved networking already because they did it, or were like, I want that. I want that right now here
Yeah.
where I live. And I was like, well, I've got the platform, I've got the website, I've got it all set up, like the infrastructure for people to be able to set up their own events using my template. And so I created like, well, I call it like training, but you've seen them. They're really simple little videos just to sort of take people through the process. And what I really want to do with that is to transform how we network as small business owners and actually think of things in a different way, because we're very used to the idea, and I think it puts a lot of people off, that they've got to go and sit in like a boardroom for a certain amount of time. They've got to do a pitch and it's all very awkward, and if you're new, that's really uncomfortable, or maybe you're more introverted and that can be more uncomfortable. And I actually think we should be open and success for everybody. That's absolutely my
I'm all about the inclusivity as well.
and I just feel that, let's have a different way that makes people or allows people to feel more comfortable. And that's what I wanted to create with netwalking. And it links very nicely with my main business, which is where I talk about mindset first all the time. And it's about how we feel, how we think, what we're telling ourselves, and that is going to impact our behavior. And what I noticed when I did the first netwalk is people were saying that was so good. I made real connections. And then people were messaging me like 2 days later saying, oh, so and so recommended me and I've made sales. And I'm like, brilliant. Like, that's exactly what it's all about. But it's happened so quickly. And from a mindset point of view, it's because you're relaxed. It's because you're not worrying about the pictures. And I mean, because you netwalk. And I just was like, this is it. And it's grown from there.
Yeah, I think from my own perspective, because I'm still a bit out in the sticks, I'm still growing mine. Even though if I only get one person sign up, it's a good chance to have a proper get to know that person. So I built real connections over just networking with one other person. It's also an excuse to extend the adventures as well, because I love a good adventure.
And I think that's the thing, is I think, again, it's about these misconceptions about what we need for a successful networking like event or something. And I think people think, oh, I've got to have blurted out everything there is to know about my business, and it's all about making sales, and it's about getting my business in front of as many people as possible. And to be honest, I completely disagree with like all of that. It's not about saying everything there is to know about you in 60 seconds. It's not about blurting your business name in front of as many people as possible. And it's not actually about sales. It's about connection, and it's about community, and it's about knowing you're not alone. And it's about creating real relationships with people, because that does lead to sales. That is how it works. Not necessarily with that person, but like I said, through recommendations and through all of that. And networking, because you're relaxed, because you're out in nature, because you're focusing on like, oh, what's that over there? And, all of that kind of thing. The conversation flows. And so you're able to trust the person you're with or people you're with so much easier. And I too have run netwalks with just one other person, and they've been just as successful as when I've had 10.
Well, I do mainly the same network around Menno Bridge, and I've had a bird expert and a flower expert come with me on different occasions. So I've learned a lot along the way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing, it's mindset, isn't it? So growth mindset, always learning. There's always something to learn from different people, from their experiences. And I just find it fascinating.
So talking about experiences on networking, have you got a funny experience you'd like to highlight?
Well, I suppose there's the one thing. It's interesting you're saying about the flowers and the birds and stuff, because one thing that was quite funny on the last netwalk I did, and I do the same walk regularly, and there's a reason for that. It's because people get used to the walk, and it's not about sort of going, well, where are we, what we're doing. Like, you just get used to the walk, you're going with the flow, and you can, like, the conversation can flow. But this time we went, and it had been 2 weeks since we'd last done it, and it became really overgrown. And I was like, definitely, well, you didn't bring my sort of scythe to try and get through this. So we had a real laugh. And I think that's what I love about networking, is there's nothing necessarily really funny that happens on one, thing, but it's just a really fun thing to do, because you're just so comfortable.
Adds to the experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was one that I did last summer. It wasn't for this, obviously, because I only joined you in January, but I did one last summer around Llangefni, and there's some slowberry bushes. And
Nice.
I was walking with my person, and I was like, "Oh, slowberry bushes." I was wondering what people made with slowberry. Knowing gin was in my head, and from
Yeah.
behind the bushes, two lads just went, "We're making gin with it," and I was like, "Okay, that tells me
I love
then."
that. I love that so much. And yeah, it's just so good because you get to meet loads of different people. There's going to be fun things that
Yeah,
happen because people are looking for fun in that sort of scenario. Is when you're in a boardroom, and I'm not like no shade to that kind of networking, like, and I don't mean it, and that has a
yeah,
place in the networking, no, bleh, networking
yes,
world. There's, there really, really is different types, and it's about exploring and finding a way that works for you. And when I work with my clients in my main business, it's really important that we have rapport and we have a connection,
yeah,
and people get
definitely.
to see like the real me. And the real me isn't somebody who, wears a suit and tie and sits in a boardroom. It's somebody who laughs a lot and makes mistakes and,
Yeah.
you know, hasn't happened yet on a netwalk, but trips over and falls off things, which is hence I'm sure for those not watching the video, I'm showing my broken arm, and that didn't happen on a netwalk. But
Glad to
yeah,
hear
it's
it.
just about being real, and that's what I love about netwalking. Plus, you get to see this beautiful world that we live in.
Cool. So it's a really interesting experience networking. Now, I do all the different types of networking. Apart from the
Yeah,
boardroom, we tend to meet in the pub or the cafe,
nice.
but do the pitch. I've got
Yeah.
my elevator pitch down to 10 to 20 seconds if I'm focused enough.
Right.
But um, that yeah, it's a skill that you need to hone in effectively, because you could be talking for half an hour, and we
Yeah,
in some of the networking meetings I go to, you've got a 2 minute limit, and she
yeah,
actually sets a timer so it goes
yeah,
buzz when you 2 minutes are up, and some
yeah,
people are just on 2 minutes, some people want to carry on talking, other people are less, you know
yeah,
but it keeps the standard there so you can get through everyone. But
absolutely.
networking's so much more free
Yeah,
flowing, and there's no pitching, and you just get into conversations. And if
yeah,
I mean, failing any conversations, if you're a socially awkward introvert, you can always talk about the weather at the end of the day because you're out
yeah.
there in the weather.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you should mention that because someone asked me if dogs were welcome on netwalks. And I'm pretty flexible, as you know, Jen. So I don't sort of force my
Mm.
leaders to do or anything that, like, go with the flow is my general
Yeah,
sort of ethos. So I allow like well-behaved dogs on leads at my events, but some people might not want them at their events. And that's totally cool. I'm not going to sort of dictate that. But someone asked me, like, all right, well, you're going to let dogs, and I was like, yeah, why not? Like, it's a walk. Dogs like walking too. People were like, oh, well, I think people will just talk about their dogs, not business. And I'm like, that's okay, because it doesn't
that's the
matter,
way the
does it?
tide goes.
If it gets conversation flowing, what does it matter? And networking, like I go, and we talk about everything. We do talk about business. And, how's business going? What do you need right now? How can I help you? How do I know to recommend you? What would someone have to say to me for me to know to recommend your business? Those kind of questions. I love learning all about that. But also, how long have you had your dog?
Yeah,
I don't have a dog, like,
I
so I
don't
learn
either.
about it. And that's, I just find it fascinating. It doesn't matter what we talk about because we're getting to know people.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's all about connections
Yes.
and
Yeah.
collaborations, and yeah, that's what
Yes.
I live for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of the sort of core values of Netwalking UK, the sort of
Mm.
networking that I've set up is collaboration over competition. It certainly doesn't bother me in any way that you run networks for a different organization as well. I've had people say, can I promote my networking event in my Facebook group, in the networking Facebook group? And I'm
Mm.
like, yeah, go for it, because it's a different thing. We're not offering the same thing here. Let's work together to get small business owners networking.
Yes, that's what we live for. Okay, thanks for coming to talk to me today, Lauren. Could you let us know where we can find you and your networking things if
Yeah,
people are looking for you?
absolutely. Yeah, so head over to Facebook or Instagram. I'm at Netwalking UK. There's also the website, which is netwalking.uk, which has all the links to my social media as well. And there is a Facebook group. So if you just go onto Facebook, search Netwalking, small business connections, networking, you'll find us there.
Brilliant. So thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.